Welcome to the Spotlight segment. This is a segment dedicated to interviews with developers or interesting happenings in the world of Android. And now for this week's episode, here's your Spotlight. Now let's drag along and move on to our next segment, and we're talking about the Spotlight, and that's where we're spotlighting what is happening with Google and the QPR and some new changes that have come to Gemini. In other words, the week of July the 13th saw a lot of happenings, and we're going to highlight some of these. And so here are the 9 items that came with QPR1 Beta 3, which is the final one. So if you don't want to be rolled into the next phase, for example, if you have a Pixel phone, the final beta is that Beta 3. And then the one that will be dropped for people that are not in the beta would be in September. So if you don't want to be part of the beta where you will be automatically rolled out the next beta, Beta 2, then you could unenroll before that happens. For now, though, let's look at what we have. There are 9 of them, as I indicated. 1, an issue around RTOS task list corruption that was causing restarts. 2, launcher not completely displaying. 3, notification display issues. 4, the media player in the notification pull down fails to fully display and function. 5, full phone restart due to class loader issues. 6, kernel issue causing restarts. 7, camera non-functional at startup with black screen. 8, status bar icons missing corner padding. And 9, notification shade message folding breaks. And while those are some of the fixes that came with the QPR1 Beta 3, there are some other issues, though, that are presented for those of us who are blind users, for example, and it has to do with Gemini, for example. And I don't know why Google did that, but I can see why they did that. And it has to do with the fact that when you long press your hardware key to invoke the Gemini, for example, and I got my phone here in my hand, it will say microphone in use. And if you go to, say, you're in Keep Notes or in messaging and you want to use the voice typing, it will say microphone in use. And if you open up the camera, it will say camera in use. And like I said, I can see where they're coming from. They want to let us know that you have that perpetual mic access or camera access that, if you go to the menu in the shutdown, you'll see which or what apps are using the microphone. I can see where they're coming from, but we already know that these things have microphone, or when I hold down my power key, it's invoking or opening up the mic, and I don't need to be told that. So in the zeal for wanting to make things accessible, I think they kind of gotten something that is rather in the way. And here's what I'm talking about. Let me grab my phone here. So here, if I hold down my power button, it will say microphone in use.
Microphone in use.
What's the weather in Istanbul, Turkey?
In Istanbul, Turkey, it's 80 and sunny. Tonight, the forecast is around 74 degrees and clear.
Wow. Okay, so that's now if I open up the camera app.
Home screen 1 of 5. Camera in use. Camera. Take.
You see what I mean?
Home.
And so, for example, if I go to search or do something, and I'm going to tap on the voice input.
Use voice typing. Microphone in use.
Play Store. So you got what I mean. So that's one of the problems that got introduced. But like I said, though, I think that they're trying to be helpful. But yeah, I'm not sure that anyone asked for this. Another good thing that we had...
just because you were talking about this one, if you're a usual user, it's likely that this won't be a problem because you can just add it to the blacklist, the notifications blacklist, and it shouldn't be read to you.
So the confusion actually has some good stuff going for it, right? Yeah. Nice, Karen. And if any of you that's running QPR1 beta 3 with CSR, could you try that and see what happens? And you could either report that on our mailing list or on our Telegram. And I'm sure, Karen, that would be the solution if one is running CSR. Another thing I wanted to mention is that when we had QPR1 beta 2, for some reason, if you go into your slider, say your brightness slider, it'll say 1000 point blah, 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 instead of telling you 10% or 11%, or and then the sliders in the sound will say, if you're a swiper, you swipe, it will say something and you swipe again till you get to the actual thing. Those things have been fixed. And I'm going to show you a quick example here. For example,
Locks.
if I,
Message.
oops.
Notification shape. Quick settings. Saturday, July 19th.
So I pull down my quick settings and
15%. Display brightness. Slider.
so it's behaving the way it used to if I
20%. 25%. 20%.
Yeah, so prior it will say something like 20,000 when whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's just, it was very annoying. So those are the two fixes, and yet we lost something. So you give something, you gain something, you gain something, you lost something. And that's some of the accessibility stuff that we have with the QPR1 beta 3. And I do want to mention that the in this beta also, you don't have a separate parental thing like we had in the Android Canary. But also the other one we mentioned last week about the Android Canary, where if you go into the accessibility and you go into magnification, you can magnify the keyboard. That one is now available with this QPR1 beta 3. And so those are some of the accessibility related stuff that we need to be aware of. Next, just like the Pixel feature drops, Google has decided to start a Gemini feature drop. For the month of July, here are the 5 items that are highlighted for this feature drop, some of which we've already talked about prior. 1, you can now use VEO, that's VEO, VEO3 to transform your favorite photographs into dynamic 8-second video clips with sound in the Gemini app. 2, Gemini is now available on all watches running Wear OS 4 or higher. 3, you can plan ahead with schedule actions. Thus, you can ask Gemini to provide a summary of your calendar and unread emails every morning when you wake up, for example. 3, Gemini 2.5 Pro, our most intelligent model, is now better at coding science and reasoning and multimodal benchmarks. And 5, we brought captions to Gemini Live, a highly requested feature, so you can read along as you have a conversation with Gemini. To this effect, there's now a dedicated web page where you can track these Gemini feature drops changes from the https gemini.google/latest-news/#drops. Last but not the least, the Google Linux Terminal app, which was introduced as part of the third beta of Android 16 in March, making it possible to run full-fledged Linux programs in a virtual machine on a Pixel device that qualifies for Android 16 has now been made available to the Galaxy S7 Flip, that's a Z Flip, that runs on the Exynos powered chip, but not for the Z Fold 7. And I think that could be owed to the fact that the required non-protected virtual machine, something that is supported on the Exynos powered chip, is not on that Qualcomm powered chip. And so the Snapdragon powered Z Fold 7 does not have that, while your Z Flip has the ability to run that. And that's the only Android phone that supports that upside of using a Pixel. And I'm hoping that somehow maybe some other ones will have it too. Maybe they will figure a way of making these things possible for other Android phones to have it other than the Pixel phone and the Exynos powered Samsung phones. Guys, what are your thoughts about this? Is that I'm not a Linux guy, and so it really doesn't matter to me, but I know we have a lot of blind folks that like Linux and would like to be able to do some of these things on their phone. Karen, do you mess with Linux at all, or you're like me, you're not quite into Linux?
No, the last time I checked Linux was maybe 10 years ago. So yeah, I check some stuff from time to time, but yeah, I don't think that I'm gonna play with it soon.
Sally, how about you? You like Linux? I don't know anything about Linux. How about you?
Well, I tried to use some Linux distribution 2 years ago at work, and I said, no, it's not for me.
So in reality, we're not too much into this, and so, but yeah, it's there. And while we're talking about that, one of the phones, the A series that Samsung introduced that was not here in the States, finally made it, and that would be the A56. So if you are eyeing that and it wasn't here and you are kind of pining for it, I guess you can now go out there and get it.